Hi, everybody. This is Shane, and I'm going to be walking you through the new score sheet that we're going to be using for Lancaster-Lebanon League Quiz Bowl, starting with this year's playoffs and going on into the future. We've redesigned the sheet. I got to thank Chris Meyer for this because he did the lion's share of the work here in changing the aesthetic and also adding some programming features to this that I think everybody's going to like a great deal. Uh, so I want to introduce you to the new sheet, how it works, and some of the things and features that exist in this sheet. First thing I want to do is you can see the sheet. If you scroll down here, there's a score sheet notes box down in the right-hand corner of the sheet that talks about some of the important stuff and can be used as a refresher for you every time you look at the sheet to remind you of things that I'm going to talk about in this video. There is also, and I'm going to link this in the description of the video, there's also a document that you will have access to that shows all the different kinds of error codes that you can get for various things on the score sheet. Like I said, I'm going to link that in the description of the video so that you can take a look at that later and refresh your memory on some of the things that you see here today. Okay, so the first things first, looking at the top of the score sheet in the middle here, column M, where we've got M1, M2, and M3, I want you to notice that these three blocks are red to start. Those will turn green when you have properly filled out the score sheet. So when I go ahead and I enter a team name in the team name 1 spot, and then I enter a team name in the team name 2 spot. When I enter both of those and click enter, you see that that cell has turned green, which is an indicator that that is okay. That portion of the score sheet is okay. And we're going to move on to the next level, which is where we enter our players. And so I'm going to enter some players here for Cedar Crest and enter those in. And I'm going to do the same for Penn Manor. And when I enter all of those in, notice that I have a green box here. Now, what happens if I only have 3 players or 2 players playing in a match on a particular day? In order to get this to green light, what you need to do is you need to take this box and just leave it empty and hit enter, and that'll leave that box green. Whereas if you left it filled in with player number 4, this box would stay red when you were entering player names. All right. The next thing we're going to do is a departure from something that I've recommended in the past on the old sheet. In order to get this toss-up number box to light up correctly, the 4 starting players, we are going to pretend that there are going to be no subs in this match right off the start, and we're going to enter 20 toss-ups in for every player. And once we have that done, again, that toss-up number box is going to turn green. If we have any substitutes, we're going to change that number later on in the match, and I'll show you how that happens. Okay, and from here, it's a matter of using the score sheet as we normally would. You know, buzz in, we've got a power, and we've got a bonus, and we enter all those, and everything looks okay. We didn't get any error codes. One of the features I want to point out to you here is we have a running total box that sits up at the top here so that you can see the score in bigger font for those of us who have older eyes. And you see that the team that's in the lead lights up green, and the team that is behind lights up in red. So now what happens in the second toss-up, if Penn Manor matches and it goes to 35-35, those both turn to tan. So if they're both tan, the score is tied, and if one is green and one is red, then one team is in the lead and the other team is behind. All right, so let's look at some of the other things that can happen and error codes that you're going to get, common things that might happen as we're typing stuff in. Suppose Matthew answers powers toss-up number 3, and we're going to go ahead and enter that, but the scorekeeper makes a typo and types 16. Notice how this box is going to turn red, and that means that I've got an error there, and you can go ahead and that'll call your attention to the error so you can fix that right away. And those toss-up boxes will turn red if you put anything other than a -5, a 0, a 10, or a 15 in those boxes. Okay, and so we've got a 20 on the bonus. Now, Suppose Natalie answers toss-up 4, but our scorekeeper by accident puts the score for toss-up 4 into the toss-up 3 line. So we put a 10 in there. Now that row is going to light up purple. That's an error code that tells you that something is wrong with that row. And hopefully you can see, oh, hey, oh, I put that 10 in the wrong row. Let's move that down to the next row. And then I get no error codes from the sheet. Same thing I showed you with toss-ups. What happens if we put an invalid bonus total in? If I put 15 in here for the bonus, it's going to red that square out. And so we can go back and fix that and make sure we have the right point value. So basically, anything that you do wrong on this score sheet, you should get a red box or a purple line that tells you you did something wrong. Suppose Eliza negs the toss-up number 5, and then Devin buzzes in and is incorrect, and you try to give Devin a neg. Well, there are no double negs. If we put the -5 in, notice both of those boxes turns red. There's an error in that one of those cells, and it was in Devin. If we change that to a 0, everything is now fine on that score sheet. What happens if we have an error where we don't register? Suppose Chris got toss-up number 6, but we forgot to put the score in for Chris, and we try and put bonus points in for Cedar Crest. If we put that 30 in there, notice we get that red code that says, hey, hold on a second, you're giving them bonus points when nobody has answered a toss-up. We go in and fill the toss-up in, and now those points are correct, and we get rid of the error code. And so we'll continue, and the two teams will continue scoring. And I'm going to get to halftime here by just filling some scores in. Okay, now we've reached halftime, and at halftime, Cedar Crest is going to make a substitution. We're going to put Tyler in here in place of Devin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now change, since Devin's coming out, I'm going to change his toss-ups herd to 10. And you're going to really like what happens here. And I'm going to put 10 in for Tyler. And when I put that substitute in, notice that it grays out the questions that they didn't compete in. Notice that once I change that 10 for Devin, if I don't put the 10 in for Tyler, now that toss-up number box is red, which tells me that there's an error. So I've got to go in and fill in the toss-up numbers. And that grays that out. And something you'll find here, now suppose on toss-up 11, Tyler answers toss-up number 11, and I accidentally put it in Devin's box. Devin's not in the game, so that box is going to turn red. And similarly, if I went up here and tried to credit Tyler with a toss-up there, I get a red box. Okay? So that's going to keep you from giving points to people who are out of the game and keep those cells grayed out. And we just have a lot of features like that. If you take a look at the sample that I link in the description, you can see all of the different possible things that go up. But basically what you're looking at is if anything shows up in a red box or a purple line, you've made an error in the score sheet. So I recommend everybody, take a chance and make sure that you know what's going on here. And hopefully if an error comes up in a match, someone will be able to figure out why there's an error code. Ooh, player not in the game. Ooh, I meant to give that to Matthew. Boom. And then, maybe Seth powers the next toss up, but I put it on the wrong line. Oops, there's something wrong there. It tells me with the purple error code. And we go from there. All right. The only other thing is if we get to the end of this match, and I'm not going to actually do this, if we get to the end of this match and the scores are tied, actually, maybe I should. I'm going to make it simple on us. If we get to the end of this match and the scores are tied, now we will use toss-up 21, 22, and 23 for our tiebreaker. We read the next 3 available toss-ups. Notice that there's no bonus column here, so if we try to give the kids a bonus question here and give them points for that, notice when we enter a score in there, the tiebreaker section lights up. But if I try and put bonus points in there, I should not be able to put bonus points in there. In fact, that's grayed out. Don't put bonus points in there. I'm going to check one more thing and make sure we get an error code if we do that. And then if at the end of 3 toss-ups, the score is still tied, then we move on to toss-up 24 in the tiebreaker, and that's how we're going to break the ties there, and that's how the score sheet works. All right. Uh, there you go. There's your introduction to the score sheet. If you have any questions on this, feel free to email me and I can try and give you a little bit more explanation on how the score sheet works. And something you'll notice now is we get a lot more statistical information when we scroll down to the bottom here. You see that we've got a little bit better of a score box. You get a little bit more information about how the two teams performed in the match. And it's just a really nice score sheet. All right. All right. Signing off. Talk to you later.